A vocal and visible accuser of Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew posts a picture bruised in a hospital bed, claiming she has just days to live. Soon after that, her family says that may not be entirely true. What we know about what happened to Virginia Roberts Giuffre, her condition, the alleged crash she says put her in the hospital, the legal fight that she's reportedly in, and what those close to Prince Andrew have to say about all this. We're on the case presented by Law & Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Virginia Roberts Giuffre is one of the most prominent accusers of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and it is her story, her accusations, that tied Prince Andrew to the alleged operation. This is the Instagram post that Giuffre put up 3 days ago. We had to blur some of the injuries due to YouTube policies, but in this photo you can see that she has bruising all over her face and her chest, and she's sitting in what appears to be a hospital bed. The caption is 174 words, and it has brought her story back to the headlines. That caption reads, quote, "This year has been the worst start to a new year. But I won't bore anyone with the details, but I think it's important to note that when a school bus driver comes at you driving 110 kilometers, which is about 68 miles per hour, as we were slowing for a turn, that no matter what your car is made of, it might as well be a tin can. I've gone into kidney renal failure. They've given me 4 days to live, transferring me to a specialist hospital in urology. I'm ready to go, just not until I see my babies one last time. But you know what they say about wishes. Bleep in one hand, and wish in the other, and I guarantee it's still going to be bleep at the end of the day. Thank you all for being wonderful people of the world and for being a great part of my life. God bless you all, Virginia." Kidney renal failures when one or both of your kidneys stop working, and according to the Cleveland Clinic, causes include diabetes, high blood pressure, and acute kidney injuries. I'm going to get into what police in Australia are saying in just a moment, but first let's dive into who Virginia Roberts Giuffre is. She claimed that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked her when she was a minor. She says she was forced to have sex with Prince Andrew 3 times when she was just 17 years old. This is the now infamous picture that was included in her lawsuit against the prince. It shows Giuffre and Prince Andrew, and then you look in the back there is convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell smiling at the camera. Prince Andrew and Giuffre settled out of court in 2022 after she sued Andrew the year prior. Prince Andrew has denied sleeping with Giuffre. In fact, he's denied ever meeting her. In a now infamous 2019 interview with the BBC, he said this about Giuffre when she accused him of having sex with her in 2001 in London.
"I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady. None whatsoever."
You don't remember meeting her?
No.
Giuffre had claimed that the prince had bought her drinks and they dined together. They danced together at a posh members-only nightclub in London. Prince Andrew said that he never spent time with Giuffre, and he claimed that on the date that she claimed they were together, he was actually with his kids. He went on to say he didn't know where the bar was in the nightclub. He said he doesn't drink. And in what was yet another infamous moment from that interview with the BBC, Andrew disputed Giuffre's description of him profusely sweating.
There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat. Or I didn't sweat at the time.
Giuffre claimed that she met the prince through Ghislaine Maxwell. The former socialite is now a convicted sex offender. Here's her mugshot from 2022 at the Metro Detention Center in New York. She's currently serving 20 years in prison on 5 sex trafficking charges related to the now dead Jeffrey Epstein. He, of course, died in his jail cell in 2019 after he was arrested on federal sex trafficking charges. The medical examiner said he hung himself. Giuffre told CBS News this in 2020 about Maxwell.
She is a monster. She's worse than Epstein. She did things even worse than Epstein did.
In the wake of Giuffre's allegations and the out-of-court settlement, Prince Andrew resigned from public roles with the royal family in 2020. Then his mom, Queen Elizabeth, stripped Andrew of his royal and military titles in 2022. She died later that year. The stories we cover here at Law & Crime and on The Case prove that life is unpredictable and having a great attorney matters. And that's where we bring in our partner and sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. This is a law firm with more than 1,000 attorneys and a history of winning. Just in the last couple of months, they were able to secure a $9.3 million verdict. That was for a car crash in Florida. $5.6 million went to a car accident victim in Atlanta. And in Kentucky, $1.8 million. And in that case, the insurance company was only going to offer $5,000. So even if you don't think your case is worth millions of dollars, why not fight for what you deserve? Morgan & Morgan makes it so easy to file a claim. You can do it with just 8 easy clicks on your phone. So if you're hurt, you need to file a claim, head over to forthepeople.com/OTC. You can also scan this QR code on your screen or click the link in the description. Now let's turn to the controversy that's unfolding in Australia and what Giuffre said happened and what police say happened. In her Instagram post, Giuffre said that she had just 4 days to live. And soon after that news went viral, a spokesperson for Giuffre and her family issued some clarification in a statement to People that said, quote, "Virginia thanks everyone for the outpouring of love and support. She is overwhelmed with gratitude. Today she remains in serious condition while receiving medical care. On March 24th in rural Western Australia, a school bus hit the car in which she was riding. The police were called but said that there was no one available to come to the scene. They asked if anyone was injured and suggested that if they were, they should make their way to the hospital. Australian police have told media outlets that no one was reported injured in the crash and the car involved sustained roughly $2,000 in damage, and the bus driver reported the incident the next day." Giuffre's statement then goes on to say that she actually didn't mean to post this caption, saying that she had 4 days to live publicly. Instead, it was meant for a private social media page. This story has taken yet another turn involving Giuffre and some apparent family issues that she's having. People is reporting that she recently made a court appearance March 14th, and that was for allegedly violating a family violence restraining order in February. Her case is next expected to be in court on April 9th. It's unclear, according to People, if she is going to be there. Local Australian media reports that Giuffre bought a $1.9 million home in Perth, Australia in 2020 with her husband of 22 years. The couple have 3 teenage children, and local media is reporting that she is recently estranged from her husband. On that Instagram post where Giuffre wrote that she had 4 days to live, she is receiving a lot of support from people pointing to the courage that she had to speak up about being trafficked by Epstein and Maxwell. One user writes, quote, "What you did for all the victims of sexual abuse and human trafficking will always be remembered. Thank you for speaking up. Wishing you recovery and many more years to live." That comment has thousands of likes. Now, Prince Andrew has not commented on this most recent story, but his ex-girlfriend is giving her opinion. Her name is Victoria Hervey. She's a model and socialite. She posted dozens of stories on her Instagram account mocking and criticizing Giuffre. One post reads, quote, "The pain caused by her lies, destroying lives and tearing families apart, all for money, is no small thing. She has a lot to answer for. I call this divine judgment by God. People often say karma has a way of catching up." She also posts, quote, "As Ghislaine Maxwell put it, Virginia is a fantasist," end quote. I'll once again show you Ghislaine Maxwell's mugshot. She's currently serving 20 years in federal prison after being convicted in U.S. federal court on several charges of sex trafficking minors. Joining us now to dive into this story is civil trial attorney David Ring. Always great to have you on Law and Crime. Thank you for being here. There's just been a lot of twists and turns, it seems, since this Instagram post went up a couple days ago. What do you make of what we're hearing about what happened with Virginia Roberts Giuffre in Australia?
Well, it's really confusing, Chris. I mean, we know that Virginia posted this Facebook post saying that she'd been in this incredibly serious accident in which she was hit in a car by a bus, and that she had 4 days to live. And obviously the reaction of that was terror and horror by people, and it's terrible. And then in the next day or so, things seemed to change a little bit, and it did not appear to be life-threatening. And Virginia came out, or her family came out and said, well, gee, that post is posted by mistake to the public. It was meant to be private. So there's a lot of unanswered questions here.
And it's come to light that she was involved in some sort of, I think in American terms, it would be a domestic matter, that there was some sort of restraining order in place that she may have violated, and she was recently in court for that. I know Australian law may be a little different than US law, but what do you make of that development coming in and how that could fit into something that could be going on with this Instagram post and what she's alleging happened on this bus or in this crash with this bus.
Well, look, by all accounts, it sounds like Virginia's going through some very, very tough times. Not just physically because of whatever accident she was in, but also mentally and with family stuff. And I read an account that her father had been quoted as saying that there's this issue where she's estranged from her husband, that she's unable to see her children, and yes, there is some sort of family law court restraining order out there, apparently against her, which apparently prevents her from seeing her kids. And so she's going through a really, really, really tough time right now. And this accident and this Facebook post obviously play into that. She's struggling, and we don't know what her exact struggles are, but something serious is going on with her, which is really unfortunate. This poor woman has been through so much in her life, but that this is just another added traumatic incident that she's got to deal with.
And you just think of the trauma and the strength that she's had to go public with that trauma and making accusations against Prince Andrew, as well as Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. As this story has brought the saga surrounding Jeffrey Epstein once again back to the surface, back to the headlines. As you take a step back and look at everything that is dissected whenever this story gets a lot of attention, what do you make of the accusations she made and how she fits into that story?
Well, Virginia Giuffre was a key player in the Jeffrey Epstein uh, convictions and the criminal case against him and Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, she was a key player. She was one of the victims who came forward and testified and cooperated with authorities. And without her, I'm not sure where we're at today with the whole Jeffrey Epstein episode. If we recall, she was a teenager back in Florida and met Maxwell at Mar-a-Lago, and Maxwell introduced her to Epstein, and that's when the abuse began and the sex trafficking began. And Giuffre's allegation that was that along the way she was trafficked to Prince Andrew. And so jump ahead, to just a few years ago when she brought a lawsuit against Prince Andrew, and he settled that confidentially. And the rumors are that, he paid a substantial sum of money to her. So she was a key player in all of this. And the last, what, 5, 6, 7 years, she's been under intense scrutiny because this has been in the media so much. Both Epstein, then Maxwell, and then Prince Andrew. And so this woman's been through quite a bit.
Yeah, I think too, I mean, the now infamous 2019 BBC interview that Prince Andrew gave, I know there was a film that kind of dramatized it, but her accusations really is what led to so much of the controversy surrounding Prince Andrew, and then ultimately him resigning from public life and Queen Elizabeth taking away his royal titles. It's a tough question to ask, but I know that if there was a critic of Virginia Roberts Giuffre and what she has been through, they might look at this and say that it raises questions about her story. What would you say? And you see a lot of comments on social media about that, but especially as a civil trial attorney, you think about what she accused people of, and then is obviously having some trouble in her personal life. Does any of this have an impact on the accusations that she made so many years ago?
In my mind, not one bit. This is someone who came forward and let's face it, Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted. She's serving 20 years in prison, in part because of Virginia Giuffre's allegations. And Prince Andrew was stripped of his title and apparently paid a hefty sum of money to her because of her civil lawsuit. So I don't think those things happen if you're just making things up. There's proof and corroborating evidence and all of that corroborated her story at the time. I think what's going on now is she's under intense pressure and has been. She's going through a lot in her personal life with her ex-husband and her children, and she's under an intense amount of pressure. And she's like a lot of victims of sexual abuse. That doesn't just magically disappear overnight once the perpetrator goes to jail or a lawsuit is settled. That stays with the victim for a long time, and they deal with a lot of other issues that come up in their life because of it. And this appears to be one of those issues that she's got to deal with.
We see in a lot of these cases, especially whether it's a celebrity or a powerful person, that lawsuits can often come from people who are anonymous. They want to remain anonymous because they're afraid of, I mean, in some of these cases now, we're seeing the lawsuits that Sean Combs is facing from people who don't want to come forward and put their name out there when they make a serious accusation. She did put her name forward. She was very public about what she said happened. As someone who deals with these lawsuits, I mean, what does that say about her as a person and the courage it took to do that and to be as public as she was when she accused Jeffrey Epstein, Prince Andrew, and Ghislaine Maxwell of what they were all accused of doing? Maxwell, of course, convicted on charges and is now in prison.
Incredibly courageous. I've represented victims of abuse, both as children and as adults, in lawsuits for the last 30 years. And the vast majority of them want to remain anonymous in the lawsuit. They file it as Jane Doe or John Doe, and they have every right to do so for a lot
Sure.
of very legitimate reasons. But I've had a handful who say, I want to be public. I want my name on there. And they are incredibly courageous to do that because just like Virginia was, and especially Virginia, because it was such a high-profile case. I mean, it wasn't just in the United States; it was worldwide news when she sued Prince Andrew. And so, you can imagine the scrutiny and the backlash that she took having her name attached to that lawsuit or to the criminal case. It takes a very, very courageous person to do that, and she did it, and she withstood it, and she came through with a successful result. And so she's to be commended for doing that. And unfortunately, like we talked about already, she's having some serious effects as life goes on, in part because of the trauma she experienced.
Just an incredible amount of trauma. And you talk about the backlash. I want to be clear. I'm not knocking anybody who comes as a John Doe or a Jane Doe because it's certainly their right. And it's a scary situation to make those accusations and to be public, especially against a public person. What does some of that backlash look like that you've seen in your experience? Some of the dangers that someone can face when they put their name forward on a lawsuit or an accusation like Virginia Giuffre did in this case.
Oh, well, we're all familiar with the absolute, uh, oftentimes despicable comments made on social media, the things that are sent to public figures, the things that are the comments that are made. I mean, it's unbelievable, and it's impossible to avoid if you're the target. I mean, once your name's out there, these people out there on the internet, they can find you anywhere, and they'll find you, and they'll make all sorts of just comments and derogatory things and all the hate that comes with it. And she endured that because it was a very controversial case, especially the one involving Prince Andrew. There's obviously an entire group of people that supported him and attacked her. And I'll tell you, I even just read something with respect to this accident that Virginia was just in, that someone connected with the royal family in some way is, again, coming out saying it's all a bunch of lies and she's
Right.
making this up and the accident is made up and she's just doing this for attention and she has zero credibility. And so, she's had to withstand those type of attacks for many years now, and it's taken its toll, and it's just not fair.
No, it isn't. And yeah, it's a socialite who's close to Prince Andrew, and she is just on Instagram. We saw just posting story after story, absolute character assassination attempt on someone who has been through so much, and that the court system, especially in the criminal case of Ghislaine Maxwell, has proved that these were things that happened. As we look at the Jeffrey Epstein story, I mean, whenever something comes up, it's headlines. Even something like this, which is in many ways detached, where it's an incident that she's dealing with in her personal life. What is it about Jeffrey Epstein and everything that he was accused of doing before he died that just seems to gather so much attention every single time something happens?
Well, look, he was, kind of like the Harvey Weinstein situation, very, very powerful man. Jeffrey Epstein had connections everywhere, including presidents of the United States. I think what really tipped this into a major, major news story was that for a while he got away with it. He had the sweetheart deal down in Florida that allowed him to serve at the Palm Beach County Jail, and he didn't even go there when he was first arrested and pled guilty to these charges, and he would just serve time at his house, working at his house. And then a few years later, it all caught up to him, and things turned, and the feds got involved, and he got charged, and then depending on who you believe, he committed suicide in prison in New York while he's awaiting charges. And so this whole story has been incredible, and it shows the power that people like Epstein had for a long time, but it also shows that the justice system, it might be slow, but at some point it does work, especially with Ghislaine Maxwell, his accomplice. And so I think the stories, when you read that one of the main victims has posted that she only has 4 days to live because of an accident that she's been in, that's news. And so that's why we're here talking about it. And I'm glad it's not true. It doesn't appear to be that she's going to pass, that she just had some serious injuries. So I'm glad. I mean, I think we're all glad that that's not the case.
No, absolutely. And David, just finally, because I think of in the case of Virginia Giuffre, and this is an example that once she went public, like you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. She's a public person forever. And even when something happens in her personal life, it's going to be something that's going to be covered. People know where she lives. People know her family situation. What's your advice to the victims that come to you when they make accusations, even if it's not against the most powerful people in the world, but advice about what life looks like after the case is over, even if they were able to settle? Because I'm sure there are people who look and say, well, she got a ton of money from Prince Andrew. She lives, bought this nearly $2 million home in Australia. Everything's fair, but clearly when you're struggling, you're a public person. I mean, how does someone move forward with their life even after a case ends like this?
Yeah, look, money received in a settlement doesn't cure anything. That's just how the American justice system works. The civil justice system is that you bring a lawsuit against someone, the vast majority of times that case is resolved by the payment of money. But that's not going to make a sexual abuse victim suddenly, feel better about themselves or have no more issues in their life. And so a lot of times what you see happening is once either the criminal case is over or the civil lawsuit is over, and that victim's been living those cases, that's like their whole world is to get the perpetrator convicted or to get the case resolved. And suddenly that comes to an end. And then they got to deal with the real world. And money's not going to solve any of the psychological issues they're having. And so I'll tell you, they really need to have some very, very good, therapeutic help, to regularly see a therapist and to try to deal with all of those issues. And it can be successful. I've represented plenty of victims who have come through that and have gone on to live these really healthy, incredible lives because they gain closure. And others struggle for a long time. And so, we see Virginia, she's struggling a little bit, and we all hope that she makes it through this and goes on to get healthy and gets out of the hospital from this current accident and goes on and kind of gets some closure and can move on with her life.
Yeah, without a doubt, because the trauma that she's been through, especially when she was not even an adult, it's the trauma that lasts a lifetime, and that's not words can't really describe what she has been through. David Ring, civil trial attorney. Thanks for joining us on this story. It's certainly an interesting one. We'll continue to follow here at Law and Crime.
All right, thank you.
Giuffre's restraining order case is reportedly scheduled to be back in court in Australia on April 9th. For On the Case presented by Law and Crime, I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.